Hello and welcome to Nyam Nyam. Let's make Canelles. Start by pouring 500 millilitres of milk into a pot. Add in 1 vanilla bean and give it a mix whilst heating on the stove. Now add in 25 grams of butter. Melt that in. Turn the heat off. Pop that aside and in a mixing bowl whisk together 3 eggs. Add in 250 grams of sugar. Lovely. Now add in 2 teaspoons of vanilla extract. 250 millilitres of rum or flavouring of your choice. Then sift in 125 grams of flour. Mix it all together and pour in your vanilla milk. Adding a little bit at a time. Brilliant. Cover that in some cling wrap and refrigerate for 24 hours. Then we can pour it through a sieve into a new bowl. So we take out any of the vanilla pieces, any lumps. There. Now chill that at room temperature and get your moulds. We're going to butter the inside of our silicone moulds, which are very deep, flowery shaped moulds. Then pour in your mixture, almost to the top of each one. Then bake those at 220 degrees for 15 minutes. And then again at 180 degrees for 50 minutes. And they're ready. Ready to enjoy. Yum! Going to show you how to make this French classic dessert, opera cake. All you need is 20 grams of cake flour sifted into a mixing bowl. We want to keep this nice and smooth and we don't want any lumps. Now we're going to sift in 140 grams of almond powder. This is to make our almond sponge cake. Next we add 1/4 teaspoon of salt, mix it all together. And time to add our eggs. We're adding 5 eggs to this mixture. No need to whisk them in advance, just chuck them right in and whisk it all up together. Now we're going to add another 10 grams of cake flour and 30 grams of melted butter. You can just pop that in the microwave in advance. Right, once that's ready, we're going to put it aside, and in a separate mixing bowl, we're going to add 5 egg whites. Keep the yolks aside, whisk that up. Now this part of the process is very similar to when you're making meringues, if you've ever made those. We're going to gradually add 140 grams of sugar into that using white sugar, whisking as we go. Electric whisk is very handy for this. We can just keep it on a high speed with one hand and gradually pour the sugar in with the other. Now once that starts to form stiff peaks, it's ready. That is going to be spooned into our first mixture. No need to use a whisk for this part. And there is our cake mixture ready to go in the oven. So we're going to pour that into a fairly shallow rectangle cake tin using some baking paper just to stop it from sticking, spreading it out to evenly cover the tin. We're using a spatula for this. There, it's ready to go. And you can stick that in the oven for 10 minutes at 200 degrees centigrade. Let it rise and take it out of the oven. Now we're going to just slice off the edges to make a perfect rectangle shape, exposing the inner sponge. Right, we're going to get 70 grams of melted chocolate. We're using milk chocolate, but you can use any type you like. Add 100 grams of cereal to that. Nice crumbled up cereal, perhaps some mashed up cornflakes or Rice Krispies, even bran flakes. Stir it all together. Now we're going to add that on top of a layer of almond cake. So the almond cake we made earlier, we have sliced into a few slices, and you might need to make a couple of cakes in order to do this because we want to keep piling on the layers. So we've spread that over the top and we put some baking paper on top to turn it upside down. Now we get 45 millilitres of water and 150 grams of sugar with 4 grams of instant coffee. Mix that together, heating it in a pot on the stove, letting it bubble away. Keep stirring it, making sure it's all properly dissolved. Once it's boiling, you can take it off the heat. And that's your coffee syrup, which we're going to just brush and dab on to our sponge cake layer. Next, we get 160 millilitres of whipping cream. Add that to a pot on the stove. Let that start to simmer. Mix it up a little bit. Getting hungry already. Now we're going to add 160 grams of dark chocolate chips to that. Again, you can choose your choice of chocolate. We like it dark and rich. This is making our chocolate ganache. Very simple. Once that's all melted, we're going to start putting that on our sponge cake layer, which we've turned upside down. Remember, we've got the crunchy chocolate cereal on the other side. We're going to add a second layer on top of that. And again, brush on some coffee syrup. Next, we're going to add 160 millilitres of water and 100 grams of sugar to a pot on the stove and let it bubble away. Stir it all in, making sure it's dissolved. So once it's simmering, we add 6 grams of instant coffee. Keep stirring. Now we're going to add 5 egg yolks that we saved from earlier into a mixing bowl and whisk them up. No, I'm not yolking. That is 5 egg yolks, like making ice cream. We're going to add our coffee sauce that we just made into those egg yolks, a little bit at a time, mixing all the while. So you have to keep stirring and keep whisking with this recipe. You know, I'm feeling pretty ecstatic about this recipe. Right, once it's a pale coffee colour and nice and thick, we add 280 grams of room temperature butter. A little bit at a time, so as not to miss any clumps. We want it to be mixed properly. Worth taking your time over this. An electric whisk will really help you with this recipe. Of course, it will speed things up. So we're just going to move that away from the sides of the bowl and start to spoon that onto our sponge cake layer. This is looking fantastic already. Spreading it out evenly and adding a third layer on top of that, repeating the process, adding the coffee syrup, the chocolate ganache, another layer of sponge cake, and the coffee syrup and the buttercream icing. Refrigerate that until it's set. Meanwhile, add some water in a pan. Heat that up until it's simmering. Watch it gently bubble away. And we're going to place a heat-proof bowl over that and add 200 grams of chocolate chips into it. We want the steam underneath the bowl to melt the chocolate chips, stirring all the while. I can't wait to try this cake. It's already looking amazing. And whilst we're in the middle of that melting process, we're going to add 30 millilitres of canola oil. You can use any type of oil you like, even coconut oil for a slightly healthier option. It's very tasty, especially for pudding recipes. Right, now our cake is ready out of the fridge. We're going to start pouring on our chocolate glaze. Delicious. Let it drip down the sides, covering the entire top of our buttercream covered cake. Spreading it out. Yum, look at that. Gooey, drizzly chocolate ganache. That goes in the refrigerator for 30 minutes. And once it's set, you can take it out and start slicing it up. We'll just tidy up the edges. We like it to look nice and neat and tidy. Slice it into portions. If you're a perfectionist, time to decorate. Let's put a little bit of chocolate ganache writing on it. Let's write the word opera, of course, since it is opera cake. You could write a friend or family member's name if you wanted to personalise it. Little bit of gold paper there. Anything you like to make it look special. Delicious. French opera cake, fit for royalty. This French-style soufflé is the perfect ending to any heavy meal because it's a lovely, light dessert. All you need is 20 millilitres of melted butter plus 10 grams of flour added to a pan on the stove. Mix that in, keep it on the heat and keep mixing it so it does not start to burn. Now we're going to add 120 millilitres of milk to that, stirring it until the mixture starts to thicken. And at that point we can remove our pan from the heat in a mixing bowl. We're going to pour that over 100 grams of dark chocolate. You can use whatever type of chocolate you like, but we like to use 70% or more cocoa. We add a 1/4 teaspoon of vanilla extract and 1/8 of a teaspoon of salt to that. And stir it up. The chocolate will start to melt. Add 1 egg yolk. And mix that in too. Now it's worth bearing in mind that the darker the chocolate, the richer the taste. Now, I'm going to put that to the side. And in another mixing bowl, we're going to add 2 egg whites. Start whisking them up. Electric whisk will really help you with this to speed things up. Now, we're adding in 40 grams of sugar, whisking it till it's light and fluffy, like meringue mixture. And we're going to add that to our chocolate mixture. We can add it gradually until we have a very smooth consistency. Now we're going to butter the inside of a serving cup and add a little bit of sugar in there. We want to coat the inside of our cup with a thin layer of sugar. So just turning it around so it's coating all the way around. And then obviously we're going to get rid of the excess. You can be creative with the type of sugar you use, even using dark muscovado. Now we're going to add our soufflé mixture into that, filling it almost to the top, but not quite. I can just see that this is going to be delicious. Now with your thumb or finger, you can just remove the excess sugar and butter from the top. And that is going to go in the oven for 13 minutes only at 200 degrees centigrade. Super easy, super quick to bake. Once that's ready, we can sprinkle some cocoa powder on top. Be as generous as you like with this. And if you want to go all out, you can even add some chocolate decorations. And it's ready to serve. A chocolatey dream, French style. Look at that gooey gorgeousness. Dig in then. Right, now for our second flavour, raspberry. 200 grams of frozen raspberry are going into a blender here. You can use fresh ones or frozen ones, it doesn't really matter. We're going to pour that through a sieve. Getting rid of any bits, we're just going to sift them out. So we end up with a smooth raspberry puree, which is going to go in a pan with 40 grams of icing sugar. Stir that up and add 3 tablespoons of milk, heating all the while. Now when that is nice and thick, we can take it off the heat. Add 4 egg whites to a fresh mixing bowl and whisk away, adding 40 grams of sugar, a little bit at a time, just like before, making our meringue-like mixture. 1 teaspoon of vanilla extract goes in there for flavour. And we're going to add our raspberry sauce. Mix that all in. And we have our raspberry soufflé mixture. Now, just as before, we're going to coat the inside of a serving cup with a little bit of butter and some sugar. The great thing about this is that it gives it a little crunchiness on the outside and it stops the soufflé sticking to the cup. So pouring away any excess sugar there, we can start to add our soufflé mixture. Again, filling it almost to the top, but not quite. Now the great thing with this recipe is once you get the hang of the basic recipe, you can really start to experiment with different flavours. Now, removing any extra sugar and butter from around the top. And that goes in the oven for 12 minutes at 180 degrees. This rises quite extensively in the oven. And there we have it. Gorgeous, look at that. Let's sprinkle some icing sugar on top for a finishing touch. And how about a fresh raspberry? There you go. So, what do you prefer, chocolatey or fruity? The choice is yours. Let's make chocolate crepes. A fantastic twist on the traditional French dessert. In a bowl, you want to whisk together 2 eggs, 45 grams of sugar, and 1 teaspoon of vanilla extract. Now pour in 300 millilitres of milk. Whisk that all together And then add the dry ingredients. You want 70 grams of cake flour and 10 grams of cocoa powder. Keep mixing till it's all blended. Now pour in 30 millilitres of melted salted butter. Pour that mixture through a sieve into a new bowl. That will catch any little pieces. Cover that with cling wrap and refrigerate for 1 hour. Then pour some of the mixture onto a crepe pan to cover the bottom and cook. Once it's ready, you can tip it out onto a plate. Next, pour 200 millilitres of whipped cream into a bowl and give it a whisk. We want it to thicken slightly. Now pour in 100 grams of icing sugar and whisk again. Finally, add 50 grams of crushed Oreo. Just fold that in with a spatula. Perfect. Now slightly overlap 2 chocolate crepes and add on your whipped cream Oreo mixture. Spreading it out. We want a thin layer to cover the entire surface. Then roll. Keep going till you're almost at the end. Then stick on another chocolate crepe and add more cream. Keep going like this until it's the desired size. So you get a kind of Swiss roll effect, but with pancakes. Next, get a waxed sheet and place your pancake roll in the middle, wrapping it up tightly, closing up the ends, and refrigerate that for 1 hour. Once it's ready, you can take it out, place it on a chopping board and pipe on whipped cream Oreo. And some crushed Oreo, of course. Then just slice it up. Stick on some strawberry slices and a few sprigs of mint. This makes a brilliant presentation, green and red with the brown of the chocolate and the white of the cream. Absolutely fantastic, just look at that. So, dig in and enjoy. Let's make custard soufflé pancakes. Let's get started. All you need are 2 egg yolks with 30 grams of sugar and 4 teaspoons of vanilla extract. Whisk them together in a pan on the stove. Add 12 grams of corn flour to that and whisk again. Now it's slightly thickened. We're going to add 200 millilitres of hot milk and mix it together. Now we can turn the heat up. Keep mixing it while it bubbles away until it's completely thickened into custard. Now we can take it off the heat. Next, get a mixing bowl and add 4 egg yolks with 4 teaspoons of vanilla extract. Mix them together. Add 40 millilitres of milk to that. Mix again. Now, through a sieve, we're going to add 70 grams of cake flour just to make sure we don't get any lumps. Makes for a nice smooth consistency. Making sure we mix it very well. Put that aside. In another mixing bowl, we add 4 egg whites. We're going to whisk those up until they become frothy, whilst gradually adding 90 grams of sugar. An electric whisk will help speed up the process. We want to do it on quite a high speed because we want to create a meringue-like texture, just like that. Now, you're going to spoon that a little bit at a time into the egg yolk mixture, mixing it as you go. Little bit of patience is required for this, but believe me, it's worth it. And the great thing is, you're going to get really strong arms. Now, once you've got that beautifully shiny, pale yellow mixture, it is ready for the next step. And with recipes like this, it's all in the texture. Look at that as it drizzles into a food piping bag. And if you don't have a piping bag, you can always use a food storage bag and just snip off the end. Now we're going to lightly spray a frying pan with oil and squirt some of our mixture to form a small-sized pancake into our pan, and we're going to do that twice. Cover it with a lid and cook for 5 minutes. Next, we can take the lid off and flip one of the pancakes upside down onto the other. Add a little bit of water into the pan and cover again for 3 minutes. We're going to do the same on both sides. So we want to keep the heat a little bit low and that water too to make sure that it doesn't burn. With pancakes, we do have to be careful that we don't have the heat too high. Now in a mixing bowl, add 100 grams of whipping cream and through a sieve add your custard cream. Just to make sure there aren't any lumps, as I said earlier, it's all in the texture. Take care to mix it together very well. Now we're going to wrap our plastic sheet around our pancakes and with a piping bag put our soufflé mixture on top. Look at that soufflé gorgeousness. Now here comes the fun part. And once you remove the plastic, voila! It falls down beautifully over the sides. Look at that. It's like a sweet version of hollandaise. Sprinkle a bit of sugar on top, or even icing sugar. Put a flame to it to caramelize it, and even a sprig of rosemary. Why not be creative with your herbs? And there you have it, custard soufflé pancakes.